You are listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I am your host, Celine Yeager. Each week, I bring you advice from athletes, scientists, researchers, and other experts to help you feel and perform your best, no matter what your hormones are doing. This show is a production of Live Feisty Media. Hello, strong, feisty women. I hope you all are well. So at the top of the show here, I want to take a quick moment and thank all the folks who came up to me to say kind words about my Feisty 40 Plus newsletter and this podcast at the Roughneck Roubaix in Titusville, Pennsylvania last week. It was a doozy of an event, which anyone who was there knows, with well over 10,000 feet of climbing, over 100 pretty soggy miles on some pretty soft dirt because we've had a lot of rain here in PA this month. But it was also just lush and green and gorgeous, and it was super, super beautiful event. And I had a good day. I was really stoked to come in 12th overall in the century distance and clock the fastest female time. So it was a good day. I got to sign some books and meet some people. And I have been making it a goal to attend more small grassroots gravel events and rides because while the really big marquee events are cool, there's something uniquely special about smaller local races and rides. And I always love meeting new audience members and meeting some of you out in the wild. So thanks again. It was a really good time. Anyway, so this week, when some of the biggest names in menopause medicine want to learn to lift heavy, they turn to this week's guest, Nike master trainer, former basketball star, and midlife fitness advocate, Holly Rilinger, founder of the Lifted Method, an in-person and virtual platform that focuses on empowering people of all levels to strength train. Because Holly gets it. She has been through her own journey with damaging diet culture and body image issues, especially being a muscular woman at a time when having real quads would get you called things like thunder thighs. And that led her to starve herself and try to winnow her body down to what she thought it should look like before putting herself on a path to getting strong and owning her power because she, like we always talk about, knows that muscle is our ticket to a longer, healthier life, especially as midlife women. And speaking of midlife, she's recently run into another challenge, which many of us will relate to, navigating a kind of difficult perimenopause that has left her with sheet-soaking night sweats, brain fog, and fatigue. Through a midlife specific training plan, which we talk about here, and tailored hormone therapy, which includes testosterone for her, which we also talk about, she's been able to reclaim her energy and power and is devoted to helping others do the same. We dive into it all this week. We dive into the science and strategy behind Holly's Lifted Method and her Blueprint programs that include a specially designed program for women in midlife, which is the topic of much of this show, as well as one for folks using GLP-1 medications, which in her partnership includes a GLP-1 expert and author of the Ozempic Revolution, Dr. Alexandra Sowa of Sowa. So she works with Dr. Sowa in that blueprint for people who are on GLP-1 medications because we know they lose weight fast, they lose muscle, and strength training is really important. Plus, there are other challenges to navigate. So that was an interesting part of this conversation as well. Anyway, this one is packed with insight, honesty, and a whole lot of muscle. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. You can learn more about Holly and her programs at theliftedmethodcoaching.com. I will drop that in the show notes to make it easy to find. All right, before we get to it, as always, head into those show notes and sign up for my free weekly 40 Plus newsletter with all the nutrition and fitness news you can use. Give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook at Feisty Menopause and join our private Hit Play Not Pause Facebook group with now more than 35,000 women just like you. Thanks as always for your kind reviews and 5-star ratings that continue to come in. They really make a difference as I continue working to grow the show and get great guests going on 5 years of Hit Play Not Pause. And remember all of our great feisty courses, including the Perimenopause Starter Pack that is newly created by yours truly, and the Hormone Therapy Quick Start Guide by Dr. Carla DiGirolamo, as well as Strong, Fueled, Navigate Menopause, and the new Brain Power course that's coming down the pipe. All of that will be available on demand whenever you want them, starting next week on June 9th. So keep your eyes peeled for those too. Finally, very quick thanks to Hedda's for coming back on as a sponsor of the show. If you're looking for running shoes made by women, specifically for women, using molds of actual women's feet, Hedda's is the brand for you. Check them out in the show notes. There's a discount code there as well. Okay, enough of me. Let's have a few words about our awesome sponsors and get on with the show. All right, Holly, welcome to Hit Play Not Pause. I'm stoked for this conversation.
Thank you. Me too. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk a bit about your history first, because I find that interesting. You're a fitness pro, Nike master trainer. It seems like you've been active your whole life. What has your primary activity sports been? Like, where did the Nike master trainer come in? It sounds like that's something you've probably had for quite a long time, because I know people that were in that world for a long time.
I mean, basketball was my sport growing up. I played Division I basketball. I went on and played pro for 5 years. So it was my whole life till I was about 28. And ironically, that had nothing to do with me getting to be a Nike master trainer. But like back then, no girls ever got sponsored. You know, it's not like today where you actually have a chance. So it was really nice to then be in my late 30s and then be acknowledged more as like a trainer and be asked to be part of their strength training team. So I ended up being a Nike master trainer more just for my coaching in the fitness world.
Oh, nice. So while you were playing basketball, were you also getting involved in coaching and training while you were, or did that come afterwards?
No, that came after. And in fact, I never thought I wanted to be a coach. Like I loved being a player. And a lot of people said, well, why didn't you go coach basketball? And I didn't really, I liked it for me. You know, I didn't like my dad's in there watching the Final Four. Well, it's not the Final Four. It's the Final Eight.
Well, it's not Final Four yet. My husband's a Gator, so they just won that nail biter last night. So,
exactly. Yeah. So it was never really my dream, but I did really appreciate, you know, I'm 5'4", and what I had to do to my body to be able to compete had to be quicker, faster, stronger. I was really intrigued by that, and that's really what helped me parlay into like the fitness world.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So I saw you at a swell event in Dumbo, New York, the Naomi Watts menopause event. How did you get into the menopause space?
Yeah, I mean, for me, about 6 years ago, I was like, what's going to happen to me? Like, and, you know, I'm somebody that's lifted my whole life. I've eaten well. Like, I was just like, there's just no way my body's just going to go to shit one day. Like, I'm just like, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And like, even starting at 38, if I would like gain a little bit of weight, I'd be like, that's it. It's the beginning of the end, you know, and there was just nobody knew anything about it. And I started researching hormones, and the only thing I could find were books from Suzanne Summers, which were fine. But, you know, anything else where you wanted to get a little bit more medical and technical were like medical journals, or you had to be a doctor to go to a seminar. And thank God, like when I was about 48, 2 years ago, Dr. Mary Claire Haver, Dr. Kelly Casperson, Dr. Corinne Mend, like the conversation finally started.
That's when we started this podcast too in 2020, and I worked with Dr. Stacey Sims to come out with our book. Yeah. So yeah, we were part of Next Level, and that's it. The whole wave seemed, and I knew at that moment in 2020, I felt like I was plugging into something, but I'd be lying if I told you I thought it was going to be as big as it became, because just the past 4 or 5 years have been a huge groundswell.
Seriously. And thank God for, I think, doctors on Instagram, doctors on social media to make it more available to people. And really, you know, I think, I mean, God, my kids now know about menopause, you know, like, cause everybody's talking about it, and thank God for that.
Yeah, for sure. So you are 50 now, right? I'm doing that math correct?
Mm-hmm.
Where are you in the transition? And did you hit any of those hormonal hurdles that we talk about all the time, whether it's hot flashes or poor sleep or anxiety or I could go on and on 103 things, but did you hit any of those?
Yeah, but I just didn't know that's what it was. Like
Mm,
early 40s, I had an unusual, I just was like, I feel really anxious. Like I feel like I want to
hmm.
get on Lexapro and I run hot anyway. So there's nights where I would sweat anyway. But then I was like, I'm going through
Sounds like
three
me.
pairs of pajamas a night. Like this is kind of excessive, and really just forgetting words like cup, I was just like, oh my God, like what, like, but I didn't equate it to all that. But now in hindsight, piecing it all together, yeah, probably since like 43, 44,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what has that journey been like for you? Like, what have you done to mitigate some of those things? I mean, you actually train Mary Claire Haver now. So, like,
Yeah.
what has your journey been to help yourself through the transition? And are you through it, or are you still in perimenopause?
Well, ironically, my prescribing doctor is Dr. Corinne Men.
Oh, I
Um,
love Corinne, man.
I
I
love
love
her.
her.
I'm so lucky. I get to text message her and be like,
I
I
love
sweat to
her.
death last night. Um, we just couldn't get my dosages right. So they put me on birth control for the first time in my life. So I don't really know where I am now because I
Right.
haven't had my period in 3 months. And
Hmm.
but it's been great. Like I'm also on testosterone. So I add testosterone to the mix. But it's still a matter of I'm definitely still in perimenopause because there's times where I'll sweat to death still for 4 nights and then it goes away. So I'm not clearly through it, but when you end up going on birth control, I think you kind of lose you. I was asking her the other day, how do I know now? She's like, you won't really.
Yeah, because it's shutting the ovaries down and just putting the hormones in.
Mhm.
Had you tried a traditional method of hormonal therapy before that for
Yeah,
menopause?
I was on estrogen cream, testosterone pill for a good 2, 3 years. And I just couldn't consistently. My biggest symptoms, night sweats.
Yeah.
I
Any
just can't.
progesterone?
Yeah, progesterone pill
Oh,
and
okay.
estrogen cream.
You said
Um,
testosterone.
oh,
So, but
sorry,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
testosterone cream. So I'm on.
Okay.
Let me restart over. Estrogen cream,
Yep.
progesterone pill,
Gotcha.
testosterone cream, and really just in an attempt to manage the night sweats, we just tried birth control and it's worked. So we're going to stick with that for now.
What was the impetus to start testosterone?
Tired,
Hmm.
just so tired. A nap every day. I'm not a napper, but a nap every day and just kind of a little bit just lackluster, I don't want to go train. They're just really not like me, like not the normal amount of not want to train, but like tank is on empty level fatigue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And has that helped?
a lot, a
Yeah.
lot. And again, this is all happening in real time over the last 4 years. Originally, it was so hard to get testosterone. I was working with a compound company out of Colorado, called Amazing Meds, and I was injecting the testosterone once a week, which was fine. But
Yeah.
now, I mean, I'd rather not. Now I have like the little packs, and you do a tenth of the dose every single
Yep.
day, and um, yeah. But again, I think it's not easy, still not easy for women to get testosterone.
It is not. It is not.
Yeah.
And it becomes, in my world of endurance sports, it becomes a stickier proposition
Mm.
because it's technically, and boy, I want to do
Oh,
a
that
whole,
sucks.
yes, I want to do a whole show on this. And I've been trying to get some WADA people to talk to me, the World Anti-Doping Association kind of people, because none of that was ever initiated, put into place with masters women in mind, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's impossible to get a TUE for anything, a therapeutic use exemption, and it's technically doping. And even like a lot of women are not concerned about the podium. They're not even going to see the podium, but they still feel like they're quote unquote cheating. It's just it puts a
Wow.
whole other wrinkle into the
That's a
situation.
genre I had not even thought about,
Yeah.
honestly. Like, and that's rough. That's rough. Like you would think they'd have like you could blood test, there's a range that's normal, you know?
You could, but it is outright banned. So
Mhm.
if they pick up, because people will ask me that, they'll say, Well, what if I'm in the range? And I will say it doesn't matter because the tests just pick up exogenous hormones. So if it picks up any exogenous testosterone, you're out. And I have a friend who her career was pretty much done uh, by it. So I'm always a little like, well, if you're a tested athlete, you definitely don't want to be messing with it. And
Yeah.
if you're not, we all have to stop judging each other. It's a whole thing. So I would
Yeah,
love to see a re-examination of that
for sure.
across the board. Obviously, I mean, I started talking about this because you said it's hard for women to get testosterone, which in itself is difficult, let alone if they are somebody who's in a sport where it's frowned upon.
Yeah.
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 So you are the founder of the lifted method. What exactly is the lifted method?
Yeah, we make strength training accessible to all. So I do have a really strong love for women in midlife. And I do have specific products that cater specifically to women in midlife. But I do also have a brick and mortar studio in East
Okay.
Hampton in Long Island. And we got guys in there. We have male coaches too. Um, but most of my virtual platform is geared towards women in midlife because hey, if you're my age, you probably weren't lifting weights when you were younger, unless you specifically were training for a sport and you had a great coach that said, you know what, you need to lift weights.
Yeah. Yeah, I was training for lots of sports where we could have used it and nobody did it. No,
Yeah,
I played field hockey, tons of sports,
the
ran
boys
track.
did. The boys
Should
went.
work.
I remember thinking to myself, why are the boys going to the gym? Couldn't that
Mm-hmm.
help us too?
Mm-hmm. Sure could. Injury prevention, hello
Mhm.
ACLs. I mean, all kinds of things, right? There's
Yeah.
all kinds of things. So, what are the I have a few questions. What are the core elements the way you cover when you're talking about working with this demographic specifically?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, intimidation, fear
Mm.
factor. I mean, so many women are just fearful of getting into the gym because they don't know what they're doing. And that's one layer. The other one is fear of getting injured. And to me, having a fear of getting injured is like not flying because you're afraid the plane's going to go down. Obviously, it's not. That's a little bit of a big analogy, but you have so much more to be afraid of if you don't lift weights. So really trying to crack the code of like, why are you not lifting weights? What are the reasons? Do you understand what lifting weights can do for you? Do you understand it's not too late? We have women in their 70s starting, and there's studies showing women in their 70s who start lifting weights can actually increase their bone density, build muscle, and then providing a platform that's unintimidating. You can do it from home. We're going to teach you the basics. We're going to tell you what kind of equipment to use. We're going to tell you what role protein plays. We're going to create a community of people who are just like you so it doesn't feel stupid to ask the question. And then from there, and that program is called Blueprint. From there, we have Blueprint 2, kind of just advance you a little bit, talk about tempo training, sprint training, plyometrics. How do I read a program? Just to kind of elevate you to that next level, expand your foundation. And then really, encouraging you from there to, do you want to keep going? Do you want to go into one of our coaching programs or, because as you know, it's one thing to know how to do it, but it's another thing to actually create a habit and do it and make it as normal as brushing your teeth every day.
Looking on your Instagram, I saw some testimonials about improving bone density. You had mentioned bone density, which I always love to see. I bang that drum a lot that women don't pay enough attention to their bone health, and they really, really should. What kind of transformations are you seeing with women coming in, especially menopausal women who are starting to embrace
Yeah.
resistance training?
We've already seen women with osteopenia reversing it and not going to full-fledged osteoporosis.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen those markers decrease because there's definitely a degree of osteoporosis you can have. We've seen those numbers get better. Um, and we've seen women who have had osteopenia. Well, I said that, not have osteoporosis. So it's not easy. And I think I never heard about bone density. I never knew. Again, why do your bones get brittle? Why do old people break their bones? I just thought it was because you're old, you know? And all of these things. I thought people just got a belly in menopause because that's just what happens. It's the change. Or How about this? Your metabolism just slows down. It actually doesn't. You lose muscle.
Yeah.
And the less muscle you have, the lower your metabolism is. Uh, a lot of people just haven't understood bone density. And there's 200 million women right now in the world who have osteoporosis. And that's, that's a symptom of lack of education in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, the time that we grew up.
Yeah. Lack of caring. We just accepted it. We accepted that women would get quote unquote dowager's hump, which is the most horrible phrase known to man, maybe. And that it's okay. The women just break hips. It's just what
Yeah.
happens. We just get frail. So
Yeah.
I am all about the resistance train as well. You also, which I'm curious about, it looks like you have special programming, correct me if I'm wrong, or maybe you're just targeting some women on GLP-1 therapy.
We do.
I'm really interested in that because I know we have a lot of women in our community who are on it or curious about it. And one of the first things everybody talks about is the muscle loss. I had on a longtime GLP-1 therapy researcher, and she said that is her main concern because fast weight loss equals fast muscle loss almost always.
Exactly. But yes, so our Blueprint 1 and 2 programs are geared towards women in midlife. Our GLP-1 Blueprint is geared towards anybody on a GLP-1. And it's specifically that, like really teaching you how to build muscle, teaching the importance of maintaining muscle. And we partnered with Dr. Sowa. She just wrote the book, The Ozempic Revolution. So
Mm.
within this program, we have help on both sides. We understand that it's a specific kind of experience being on a GLP-1. You don't feel like eating protein, which is important. You feel nauseous. Your digestive tract is slowed down. So she has a specific GLP-1 package, which includes electrolytes, fiber, and protein that she suggests that you use on it. And then she gives us the coaching side from the GLP-1 side. A lot of it mental stuff too. Like these may be people who have never felt great about their body. They've never been in a gym. They've never felt proud of themselves. So I'm a huge lover of the underdog because I'm an underdog myself, a 5'4" pro basketball player. So I just love working with the underdog. So anybody who is on a GLP-1 and they're like just coming into their own, just feeling their body, just understanding what it's like to actually finally get that weight off, psyched for you. Now let's make it actually a positive experience.
Are there any things that you're doing specific to them, or is it the same sort of training, just an educational component about how important it is because you're on these drugs?
We approach it differently nutritionally
Okay.
because they're not going to be as hungry. Their digestive tract's a little bit different. Fiber's really
Yeah.
important. Electrolytes super important. Eating at specific times a day are going to be important. And really the support system of showing up. We handle everybody a little bit differently in there. Like we get that you're going to wake up and not feel like doing it. And guess what? You're going to have a group of people in there who are saying, I didn't feel like it either. I kind of pushed through it, or this is what I did. Or instead of working out in the morning, I tried eating at this point and then did it later. We also do a Q&A with Dr. Sowa, which is specific to the GLP-1 program. We also just slow everything down a little bit more because we feel like it's more likely that the GLP-1 user, not in all cases, there can be people who have been very active and they needed this, but in a lot of cases, you may have never worked out before. You might have bad knees, you
Mhm.
might really need a lot of modifications. So we take that into consideration.
Yeah. Yeah. My audience, it tends to be active by nature, so they're coming into it from a different angle, but still,
Mm-hmm.
the nutrition piece is across the board with anybody who's on it for sure,
Yeah,
because it
I
does
mean,
the
you just
self
don't want to
dive.
eat,
Yeah.
and a lot of it's you don't want to drink either. So
Oh,
you don't
interesting.
realize you're thirsty or hungry.
Yeah.
So I'm learning a lot from it too by reading the book, by being in it with Dr. Sowa. And also, listen, I'm a trainer. And when this drug first came out, I was one of those people poo-pooing it.
Mm.
So I really had to educate myself. And actually, Dr. Rocio Whalen, she's a New York City metabolic doctor, she's an endocrinologist, said, listen, if you're somebody that's dedicated an hour a day to your fitness and the needle is never moving, and I've had clients like that. I'm just
Mhm.
like, I don't know what's going on.
Yep.
I'm sorry. you're a candidate for this drug. And I think this whole shaming thing has to stop because there's so many upsides to it, like decreasing the chance of cardiovascular disease by 20%. I mean, it's really a great drug if you do it the right way and you preserve your muscle.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to hear you talking about your evolution of thought because I see too often we have a complimentary Facebook group and the question will come up and inevitably there will be people who overtly or covertly chime in with the indication that it's quote unquote cheating isn't the right
Yeah.
word, but you know what I'm saying,
No,
like
yeah,
taking the
exactly.
easy way or whatever. And I always push back that it's actually not the easy way because it's not easy or pleasant often for people to be on these medications.
It's not pleasant for a lot of people. It does
Yeah.
not make you feel good. So I totally agree with you there.
Have you seen anybody transition off of it?
That is a really good question. I haven't. I do have someone in my life who went on it and just no matter what she did, could not get these 10 pounds off. I knew her. It was frustrating no matter what she did. And I look at her now and I'm like, you don't need to be on it anymore. Like, what's that transition like? And then what happens physiologically? Like, you're just going to go right back? That's a question I still want to engage in with Dr. Sowa and this team, because for most people, it is something you'll be on for the rest of your life,
Definitely. Yeah.
So
I've heard just more rumblings and as more people come on it, I think we'll see if there are people who then can transition.
yeah,
Yeah, I've heard a little bit more about there might be a population of people who don't, but we're so in early days of this many people being on these drugs.
seriously. Yeah. But great question. Cause I think about that myself too. Cause I have a client who has a 23-year-old. That's a really young age to be on something the rest of your life,
Right.
So, what happens there? So I'm really interested to see how that is for that population.
Yeah, it is very interesting. Definitely interesting to watch. But it's cool that you're doing work with them because I do think that that needs proper attention.
For sure. For sure.
So where does cardiovascular fitness fit into your life and your training life?
Yeah, I mean, interesting. Listen, I was born in the 70s, cardio junkie, right? And there was a time when, like, I trained at this out. I was a trainer at this great gym called Peak Performance in New York City in the 2000s. Truly, like some of the best trainers there. And they used to all kind of joke with me that I was like spinning all my muscle off, which I actually was. Because I'd be like, you don't know. And I would teach 12 spin classes a week.
Oh, I did
And I
that.
look back on that time and I just, it's such a great workout. You're sweaty and you just walk out just demolished and breathless. And like, listen, I still love that feeling, but 12 hours of that a week, when I look back on pictures of myself, I'm just always a little puffy, and now that I don't do as much of that, I'm just a lot leaner, a lot healthier. I don't have to spend that much time because then I also had to go to the gym and lift weights. So two ways here. Zone 2 cardio, great way just to keep your heart healthy. Walking is so underrated. Like, I get out there, I walk my pups at a conversational pace, 150 minutes a week. Boom. Don't underestimate walking. Easy on the joints, but however you want to do that, on a treadmill, on a bike, whatever. And then sprint training, not necessarily in the environment of a spin class where you're getting like 65 sprints in an hour, but really specific targeted sprinting where you're getting your heart rate up for 30 seconds as hard as you can go, and then you're resting for 90. You do 6 of those at a time. You do that 3 times a week. You're really going to increase your VO2 max. You're going to keep your heart nice and healthy. So I've seen some things that say, cardio will improve the length of your life. Strength training will increase the quality of your life. And I really think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think we're meant to do both.
For sure.
Whenever somebody sort of pushes either way on either of those, I think we are a human body that has to lift things and has to walk through this earth and climb stairs. We're just made to train all of those systems. So
100%
that
agreed.
makes a ton of sense. So you
Yeah.
mentioned protein a bunch of times, and many people are eating it like their job right now. I'm wondering what your evolution has been nutritionally as well. Speaking of coming up at a time where we went low fat, no fat,
Yeah,
all the carbs, and now no carbs. What
I know.
what does it look like for you now?
Well, I'm 120 grams of protein a day, really heavy after strength training. I really listen to Stacy Sims a lot. I appreciate I feel like she's on the top of a lot of science when it comes to physiology and training, like hard training. And hearing her say that especially women in midlife, you need 40 to 50 grams of protein right after you train. Like that's tough. But and when you say like we were in the 80s when we are no carbs, no fat, I didn't know why. That's just what you did, like, but now I actually know the science behind it. I understand that when I'm in the gym tearing down that muscle fiber, I need to put the ingredient, those amino acids are going to help me build. I got to bake the cake with the right ingredients, right? And I do need the carbs, right? I need the glucose to help transport the muscle to the places where it's going to do its job. And I do need some fat for brain health and to actually stay satiated. So when you think about all those things and you actually understand it versus just being part of the herd, being like protein, protein, like think about it, understand it, and then watch the way your body feels. Like when I finish lifting weights, I'm ravenous and I'm like, I actually want those things, but it is hard. Like it is hard to get that much protein in. Like I'm way more plant-based now. It would be far easier if I just ate every meat on like just eat a piece of meat 3 times a day, So it is tough, but I am 100% on board with the zero point 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight.
Where are you getting it mostly then if you're heavily plant-based? What does
I
that look
do
like?
eat chicken.
Mhm.
I definitely need a protein shake every day because that's going to give me 30 grams. I do these overnight oats that have a lot of
Mhm.
protein in them. I do eggs. I do lentils. I do cottage cheese. I do a lot of beans.
Yeah.
I do fish, Greek yogurt. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. And did I read? I want to say that I read somewhere that you in the past would were you a very restrictive in your past as far as like what? Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Um, I would say, I mean, listen, growing up in high school, ironically, I hated my thighs so badly that I would
We were
starve.
taught to hate our thighs. I
Oh
did too.
God, I hate
All of us
them.
poor athletic women were taught to hate our thighs.
There are these two little twins that played on the basketball team with me that weighed like 90 pounds each, and they had legs that looked like this.
Yeah.
And that's
A
all I
metal straw.
wanted. That's all I wanted. I'm
I
like,
know.
why did I want that? Like now, I actually saw some girls in the airport the other day who had big thighs and they had these little shorts on, and I was just like slow clapping
Yay.
for them from across the airport. I was just like, God, I wish I hadn't spent so much time hating the one thing that's going to help me live to 100. like,
Right?
like,
The
thank
guys
you.
save lives. It's a real thing. It's
Yeah,
actually real on like every level, even medical science.
seriously, like for
Yeah.
real. But I starved myself in high school. I just wanted to be smaller, and these thighs weren't going anywhere. And then in my 30s, just really, just just overboard. Maybe it's a product of being 50, I don't know, or 40s where you just kind of let up a little bit. Maybe I'm just more educated now and understand carbs are okay. Eat the right amount, eat them at the right time. But first of all, my life is so much more enjoyable eating, what I want and understanding there's great days and there's good days and there's okay days. And, if you look at the big picture and you're training and you're being consistent, like don't stress out over it. Um, and that's the way I live my life now with a heavy emphasis on protein. I always ask myself, did I get my protein in? Then you should have this instead of this. But do you want that? Okay, have a little bit of that. And that's just the way I live my life now.
I applaud that. Is part of your program devoted to any mobility practice at all?
We do cover mobility in our blueprint programs.
Mm-hmm.
Just some real basic how to get ready to train, hip
Yep.
mobility, ankle
Yep.
mobility, shoulder
Yep.
mobility. Um, but we don't have a specific mobility part to our training. Pretty basic
Yeah.
stuff to get you training. Yeah.
Just like warm up part of the, yeah,
Yeah.
movement pattern.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about, Holly, that you wanted to make sure that this audience heard about any of the things that we've talked about, like getting strong in menopause and midlife and beyond?
Yeah, I mean, listen, women all ages out there. I mean, if you do have kids, they're watching you, and young girls, we stop laying down bone at the age of 30. We pretty much develop our kind of baseline musculature by 30. Like it's important. Like we're setting an example for the next generation for one thing, and the next thing is like what you're doing now in your 20s and 30s and 40s are going to set you up for the rest of your life. Like it does matter. And it does become harder and harder to build muscle. But with that being said, I have seen some great progress made for people who are starting in their 50s and 60s and 70s. So if you're someone who didn't have access to that stuff, that wasn't your lifestyle, you were afraid of getting bulky, you didn't understand, then jump into a program where you can start to make it part of your life, because this statistic blows my mind. If you break your hip over the age of 50, there's a 30% chance you will die in the next 2 years. I'm 50. Like it almost feels like that can't be true. But my dad just broke his hip and got hip replacement and then knee replacement. And I'm watching him right now. His blood pressure's high and he's a super healthy guy. He's lost all this muscle. If he hadn't been ready for this, like he's a strong dude. He can deadlift heavier plants than me. He doesn't actually do weights, but he does yard work. God, I just don't know. Yeah, it would be very hard for him to recover from this. So this is your insurance policy. We put so much emphasis on putting money in the bank. I've been taught since I was 12 years old, save money, save money, save money. If you're not also saving your body, you're not going to be able to enjoy that money.
100%. And I think what's fun about getting women in this demographic, and even there are many active women who are listening right now who still have not, and I just interviewed a couple of them for the show, who are like, I know I'm supposed to lift, but I don't lift, and I don't like lifting, and they'd rather run or do all the things, and I get it. But to your point, that is strength in the bank for your later years to be able to do those things.
It is. And you know what? Find ways to like it, because I hear that from a lot of women. It's boring. I don't like it. But then I speak to the same women in 3 months and they're like, I kind of like this. I've gone from 20-pound dumbbells to 40. Like there's
That's what I
something
was gonna say. That's what I was
super
starting. They get
empowering about
excited.
it.
They get
Like, and
stoked.
until you can get there, make some kick-ass playlists. Like go with a friend. Like, I don't know, whatever it is, get yourself to that place, because you're gonna end up, there's gonna be a time where you're like, you know what? I feel kind of badass doing this. So
Oh,
it'll happen.
100%. Yeah, you
Yes.
do. And I am one of them. I would rather ride my bike than lift any day of the week. I'd rather trail run than lift any day of the week. But I have gotten addicted would be the right word. I crave the buzz and the feeling I get of strength when I do a good strength workout. I just feel my my brain's kind of buzzing. I feel strong, and it just carries me through my day in a different way that I have come to really appreciate. So, and it's fun when people start, especially when they start, say they're 40 or 50, whatever, you make those early neuromuscular gains that are just exciting, right? I
Yeah,
mean, before you
seriously.
even put on any muscle, all of a sudden you're strong. You're like, I've gotten so much stronger. And
Yeah,
you haven't put on anything, but it's just your brain is talking to your muscle fibers and making those connections.
so true. And it's exciting to watch.
And you have a community within your app. Is that how to?
Yeah, we do. And that's really the glue that keeps us all together, because we do a live kickoff call together. We do a live workout 7 days in together, where me and Coach Meg, my sidekick from LA, we actually get in and correct everybody's form. Like it is, get your hips back, get your feet together. Like we really are able, virtually to help people with their form. And then we have a final call, and then everything else is on demand. So you can do it in your own time. Nothing's more than 30, 35 minutes a day. but our chat thread is what kind of is the thread that keeps us connected. So you actually feel like you're part of a program, not just this virtual thing. Like I signed up for some kind of educational program and I just didn't do it. I did 2 days because if you're on your own, you just don't do it. But when the whole
Yeah.
chat thread saying, who else did workout 3 today?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and you're part of it, it makes a difference.
And we know the community is so important at this time of life. I hear that from everybody. I hear from a lot of women who tell me they're lonely,
Yeah,
and that's always sad. So and they struggle to find like-minded people. So even I think when you're connecting with people in that way, it's still meaningful
absolutely. Yeah. Community is one of the keys to happiness for sure.
for sure. So what is next? Is there anything exciting on the horizon for you, or
We are, you know, we just launched GLP Blueprint, so that's exciting for us. We just kicked off Blueprint 2, so we've been busy filming and launching those things.
no?
We're really loving these virtual programs just because they're backed by doctors and we're getting out there a lot. We do have a kick-ass retreat that happens in the Dominican
Oh
in
wow,
October, and we're hoping a lot of our Blueprint members will go. We get there, we lift weights together, we eat nutritious food, we learn to surf, we hike. So
that's
we've got a
fun.
retreat coming up. So if you are part of Blueprint and you kind of keep your eye on the prize there, it's a fun thing to join with people that you've been along on this journey with together with.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Holly. Thanks for the work you do and sharing your
Thank you. This has
message.
been fun.
I appreciate it, and I hope your dad heals up well and gets back out there.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Thanks.
Well, that's our show. Come on back next week when I sit down with physiotherapist, bike fitter, and competitive cyclist Nicole O, who was surprised by menopause when it hit her at 46, and even more surprised to learn that she had osteopenia, despite being so active and having a really good bone score just a few years prior. We talk all about how she adapted her training and lifestyle to turn her bone health and her performance around, so you want to come back for that one. And until then, as always, stay feisty. You've been listening to Hit Play, Not Pause, a feisty menopause podcast for active, performance-minded women. I'm your host, Celine Yeager. The show is edited and produced by the strong, talented, and amazing women at Live Feisty Media. Follow us on social media at Feisty Menopause. And please help us spread the word. Screenshot and share this episode on your social media channels with the tag @FeistyMenopause. Share the show with your friends. And please subscribe, like, review, and rate this show wherever you get your podcasts. Word of mouth and good reviews make it easier for other listeners to find. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay feisty.